I know what we have to cover in a second isn't going to be long enough to really delve into the topic. So we've created a Facebook page. If you guys are interested, we're just going to hand out one to everyone. It's talking about mentoring. And the topic is this. If you're interested in the topic of mentoring, if you're looking to mentor somebody, if you're interested in finding an apprentice of some kind, or you want to start a mentoring structure in your church, we're going to be talking about this through blogs, through videos and forums, and what's worked for you guys. We're going to network it all together and build some really cool stuff. So mentoring is a huge, huge thing. It's my bread and butter in this life. My dad read a lot of stories of Robin Hood and chivalry and knighthood to me when I was a kid. And so it became such a big thing in my life. It has so much meaning. And so the first picture I want to show, I think we got those pictures, yes, this is from our knighting ceremony. This is Cheney. She's one of the many mentors at the Wesley. Cheney is also the youth director down in Stratford, or up in Stratford, and doing a great job there. We've had a great relationship with them. This next one, this is all the mentors, and then all around the room, and there's not a camera, we couldn't get far enough back, but these candles go all the way around the room. We have 48 mentors. Right now, greenlit mentors that are older students that are being mentored by either staff or older alumni or people in the community, and they also are mentoring people below them. So the river kind of runs through it. And we do this thing, the knighting ceremony. This sword, believe it or not, has more to do with our annual conference than you know. And I'm about to explain it here in just a minute. So I'm just going to put it right here so I don't hurt anybody. We have 48 mentors who have gone through the trials. If anybody has seen Star Wars, we've kind of based everything we do off of the Bible and Star Wars. Don't worry about it. Each mentor takes on 4 to 6 apprentices around them. Got that from Ninja Turtles. We have 128 people that are in what we call GROW, which is our mentoring program, GROW. And those are our disciples. So you can call it mentoring, you can call it discipleship. But to us, it's synonymous. It's the same thing. It's older people pouring into younger people, as it says in Titus. The older women pour into the younger women. The older men pour into the younger men. And since everything we have is crunched into 4 years, older means like a year or two older. So that's about all we have. But if you stripped away everything that we do, and you got down to just the bare bolts of what we are. If you took away all the glam and the pomp and the lights and the videos and the electric guitars or the organs, if you took away our worship service, if it became illegal to preach the gospel out in public, if we couldn't afford to keep the lights on and we had to move out of our building, if every church in the conference closed down, in theory, you would still see one dude mentoring 4 dudes, or mentoring 4 dudes, or mentoring 4 dudes, or 4 ladies doing the same thing. If you stripped it all away. We didn't come up with this idea. This is the master's method. And our bread and butter, like our main text, besides the Bible, is the Master Plan of Evangelism by Robert Coleman. It's kind of infused everything that we do, and it helps us to know what we're doing. And the scripture I want to go off of today is 2 Timothy 2:2. It says, and the things, this is Paul speaking to Timothy, it says, the things that you've seen me do in the presence of many witnesses, impart this or give this to who? To faithful men who will be able to give others also. So we're talking about 4 steps here. We got Paul to Timothy to faithful men, not just anybody, but faithful men who will then carry it on to others also. How will you know they're faithful? They'll carry it on to others also. And so this is a transgenerational thing. It goes on down the line. And so there's 4 generations here. Paul also says, imitate me as I imitate Christ. And then 1 Thessalonians 1:6 says, and you became followers of us and the Lord. I think sometimes we're just too shy to say, hey, follow me. I think we're so worried about how imperfect we are that we forget to mentor the next generation. We say, I don't have any answers. I've asked so many older men to say, hey, would you mentor me? I don't know anything. I'm like, no, you've been sitting in church for like 50 years. You know something. Or you're hiding it, or you're stealing it from the younger generation. You gotta pour out to the next generation. I want to tell you a story today that changed my life. Why this sword is so important to me. It turns out that Jesus was the first multi-level marketer, by the way. It's kind of a Ponzi scheme. It's kind of a pyramid scheme, if you will. 1 takes on 4, takes on 4. Each of those take on 4, and then you just kind of go up. That's kind of how it seems to be. And I don't think it was ever God's plan for us to grow primarily in an assembly line. And what I mean by that is it was never, I don't believe, a worship service that was going to disciple or mentor the people. I don't feel like that was the thing. I think it was life-on-life demonstration of how we walk out this faith by somebody who's a little further down the road than us. This is what we call versus the assembly line versus handcrafted. And so Dr. Howard Hendricks said, you can impress people from a distance, but you can only impact them up close. You got to let people into your life. That's mentoring. You can impress them from a distance, from a stage, but you can only impact them up close. In a sense, mentoring makes no sense. It's like you're going backwards a little bit. It's spending a majority of your time with fewer people. But mentoring, I want you to imagine it being like an arrow. I can come running at you with an arrow, and it's probably not going to do a lot. Or a target. I can run at you with a target. But if I take the time to pull back, if I notch it in the groove, if I take the time to pull it back and I aim and take it at just the right moment, release that arrow, it'll cross the field so much faster than I could run with it. Mentoring is pulling back to launch forward. Discipleship is pulling back to launch forward. And in essence, that's what Jesus did. As he nears the cross, just check it out. Take each of the books, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, split them in half. First half, he's basically with the multitudes all the time. Second half, he's almost primarily only with the 12. He's going backwards. It would seem like as you're nearing the cross, you would want to tell more people about Jesus. You'd want to tell more people about the plan. But instead, he goes backwards and makes sure these 11 guys, or these 12 guys, got it really, really good. And 11 made it out. So back to this picture up here of the mentoring circle. This is kind of the highlight reel. Yeah, we got 100 and some people. Wow, that just happened. That didn't just happen. That is 20 years of something happening. That's 20 years of faithfulness or long obedience in the same direction, as it were. I want to take you back 20 years to 1998 to a guy named Dennis Warren. Just a guy in the church, just a layman, just a dude in the church. One day he walks up to me. He says, "Mikey, I see something in you." And he gave me a John Maxwell tape, and I don't know if you know what a tape is. It has 2 holes in it. It goes in a thing and push buttons. Maybe CDs? No, that's even MP3s? Yeah. Anyway, he walks up to me with a John Maxwell tape, and he's like, "Mikey, there's this kid on the end of this tape that John's talking about, and he reminds me of you, and I just want you to, just listen, just tell me what you think." And I'm like, "Wow, that's great." It's like, "Man, I see so many good things in you." Man, and that's back when we had church at night too. So I went home real quick. I sat by the stereo. I listened to this. I can't remember what it was about, but I remember how I felt that there was an older man in the congregation that wasn't related to me. That took time to care about me. That was interested in my life. And I listened to that. I stood there. I sat by the stereo listening to it. I got the leadership principles. That night I come back to church and we stand in this forum or the narthex for probably 20, 30 minutes just talking about it. And when I think back to it, I was doing most of the talking. He was just listening. And I think about what an impact it made in my life. He later became my mentor in the blog that's being released here in just a minute. It's scheduled to release and go onto that website that we're talking about on Facebook. I'll tell more about it, but he became my mentor. He was my Paul, and I was his Timothy. And he was someone, like I said, that wasn't related, who took time to get to know me. And one day, my dad and him and a couple of people from the church would send us on this knighting ceremony. And that's where the sword came from. And he would send us young men out into the field, and one of the men of the church would meet us there and tell us what it meant to be a man. And they would send us on up to the windmill, and there another man in the church would tell us what it meant to be a man in a different way. And then we'd go up to the top of this big hill overlooking all these trees and overlooking the awesome sunset of Perryton. And there, my mentor, Dennis Warren, would knight me with that sword. And what that sword means was so much. It meant, I believe in you. It meant you got what it takes. It meant, I'm with you. I believe in you. I see in you something awesome. And one evening, I would get down on one knee and I would ask his daughter to marry me. And now we have 2 kids, and it's been a great ride. And and because Dennis Warren poured his life into me, I began to pour my life because monkey see, monkey do, right? And as he poured his life into me, I began to pour out my life into faithful men who would teach others also. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. I would begin to mentor my friends in high school. They were the same age as me. I started out in ministry. Everyone's older than me. As I get a little older, I'm like the older brother. Now I'm almost like the dad, and it's getting a little bit scary. My daughter's about to be in junior high, and that scares me. When I became the Wesley director 11 years ago, I saw these kids. This is where it gets really interesting. I saw these kids that were well, they were fat, really. They were faithful, they were available, and they were teachable. And I say, you gotta only take on the fat people, the faithful, the available, and the teachable. Anyway, that's free. I was preaching to 80-some kids a week, but on a theory from Master Plan of Evangelism, I spent most of my time with 4 dudes. I felt like I was robbing from the church. It's like, man, I really need to be focusing on the majority, but I feel like I need to spend my time with these 4 dudes at a park, Southeast Park in Canyon, Texas, around this park bench. It was a big risk because, again, like I was spending a majority of my time with these 4 dudes, 3 of which weren't even involved with us. I just saw something special in them. One of those happened to be Bo Niewarner. Go ahead and stand up, Bo, where you're at. And just stay. Standing up. There you go. Just like that. Took on Bo. He wasn't even a member yet of the Wesley or the Methodist Church or anything. Had no idea what was going on. And we'd sit around this park bench and, man, we'd just pour whatever I had, I gave. I didn't have everything. I wasn't perfect, but what I had, I gave. And Bo, keep standing. Don't go nowhere. Took on Cooper. Cooper, where you at? Coop, go ahead and stand up. And Cooper, that's a cool story. I don't got time to go into. But Cooper, Bo poured into him, and Levi, go ahead and stand up, Levi, wherever you're at. I'm not sure where. Oh, there you are. Oh, hey, you're right there. Bo took on faithful man, who's now running all kinds of crazy stuff for our conference, by the way. Awesome. And Bo went on to Big Spring, and I took on Cooper to be my apprentice. Cooper took on John, where you at? Go ahead and stand up. John, who's running sound, he went through the Wesley Academy last year and now is working at St. Stephen doing media and all kinds of crazy cool stuff. Cooper also took on Lupe. Where you at, Lupe? Are you up there still, hiding in the balcony? Who's going to be licensed local pastor tonight? Oh, there he is, licensed local pastor, going on that road. Also went on the Wesley Academy, and took on Ben Neighbors. Ben, go ahead and stand up. Who is over there? Cooper poured his life into these guys who are, and now Ben's taken on, get this, the Wesley Academy. He's the director of the Wesley Academy that's built to raise up future ministers comes around Northwest Texas. Hopefully over the next 10 years, who knows how many ministers will be able to raise up to replace the retiring, aging ones that are moving out, retiring. We'll be able to bring in some new ones coming in. Do you see how this is working? That Paul tells Timothy, entrust these things. These are treasures. Entrust them to faithful men who will be able to teach others also. 4 generations. Let's get up for these guys. You guys can sit down. And it goes on and on and on and on and on. And we're going to see the ripples of this for years. We're going to see this for years. 11 years later, we have 128 of these same kind of caliber of people being mentored currently. And this doesn't even count the ones that have graduated. We haven't even kept good records on and that are out in the world doing things all over the place. I preach on Tuesday night to 150 students. But the most valuable hours of my week are on Friday afternoon at Palace Coffee in Canyon, Texas, around a table with 4 or 5 dudes. That's where my most valuable golden hours are, because of this theory. With 4 faithful men who will teach others also. Now that's handcrafted. I've always wondered what would happen if the church would really take this on. I don't know if it's possible, but what would happen? I mean, we spend so much time focused on bulletins and sermons and music and committee meetings, and I just wonder what would happen. I'm just dreaming here, but what would happen? You know, if some of those spinning plates, if we could let some of those fall, maybe, I don't know. I know that's crazy, but what if we let them fall and we focused the best of our energy, the best of our time on 4 people who could reach others also? What would happen if Sunday morning wasn't our game day? but Friday afternoon was, in theory. Well, last August, we sat at the funeral of my mentor. We laid him to rest after wrestling with a horrible liver disease. And as African poet Amado Hempate said, when an old man is dying, it's as if a whole library is burning. And in the blog that I'm releasing pretty much right now on my Facebook page, I pull out 5 books that I learned from Dennis Warren, 5 books from the library of his life of how to start mentoring. We got a mentor, right? I'm looking around and I'm like, you know what? The most impactful thing that we can do with the majority of the people in this room who are older especially, and many of you think, man, I can't play electric guitar, man, maybe God's done with me. Your main thing that you can do is the most important thing that the church needs right now, is what Titus says, the older pouring into the younger. And if you do that and you get it long range and you start up a mentoring structure in your church, which we'll be releasing more blogs about later, we could change this whole conference. We could change this whole conference. We could be not going down in AWA's average weekly attendance, but going up. Amen? I'm running out of time, so actually, I'm out of time. So I'll just tell you the titles of these books. 1, he broke the silence. He crossed the room and he handed me a tape, and he had an ICNU conversation, what we call an ICNU conversation. He saw something in me. He broke the silence. Number 2, he built trust by listening intently, by being genuinely interested in my life, and by asking good questions. The thing about Dennis is he would never answer something straight. He would always answer a question with a question. Number 3, he invested in me. And by giving me books and tapes and resourcing whatever I was interested in, by believing in me. Perhaps the best gift you can give somebody is believing in them, because a lot of times people only see the dirt in themselves. And as Carnegie said, when you go looking for gold, you have to move tons and tons and tons of dirt, but you don't go in looking for the dirt. You go in looking for the gold. And most kids, they can't see that gold in themselves. So you being a mentor can turn that around. If you can just show them the gold in their life, you'll change them forever. And 4, build something together. We built armor together and swords and stuff like that. And then later we would build the kingdom of God together. And number 5, never eat alone. There's actually a book I saw on the shelf at Barnes & Noble the other day that said never eat alone. But that basically means never do anything alone. Take an apprentice with you wherever you go. If you have a lunch meeting, take them with you. If you're going to the conference office like I do, I bring Cooper with me, or one of my apprentices, I take them with me. Always bring someone with you that you're mentoring. Every lunch I have is meeting with somebody, and so I usually take an apprentice with me to do that with them. I'll leave you with this. Mentoring is giving your life to somebody to help them be everything that they can be. It's not fast. It's very vulnerable because they see all your flaws. You can't just impress them, but you can impact them. Winston Churchill, again, said, "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give." And as the wise poet Randy Travis once said, it's not what you take when you leave this world behind you. It's what you leave behind you when you go. So God bless you guys, and may we mentor. I would love to connect with everybody on this. Go join the group, and we'll be talking more about what it means to mentor and how to start a structure in your church. God bless you guys.